Okay, Module 9 is going to be about vSphere HA, fault tolerance, and protecting data. As we can see on our map, we're on Module 9. Organizations rely on email, databases, web applications. And you imagine like e-commerce, if you have a failure in one of these, you can lose production, money. So we would like to configure highly available systems so that we can combat any kind of outages, failures, so that our business can stay up and running. There's 5 lessons in this module. Lesson 1, our introduction to vSphere HA. After this lesson, you should be able to describe the options you can use to configure your vSphere environment to make it highly available. Discuss the response of vSphere HA when an ESXi host, virtual machine, or an app fails. Okay, in the vSphere, we have protection at every level. As you can see, from the component level, we can use NIC teaming, storage multipathing, to get multiple ways to get to our data or over the network. Server piece, vMotion and DRS, takes care of moving the virtual machines between servers. We use storage vMotion and storage DRS to make sure our storage systems are available to get to the virtual machines. Back of that, with our data, we can use the vSphere replication or third-party backup solutions to replicate our data from one data center to another, or we can use Site Recovery Manager, which is a VMware solution for replicating our data to another data center. Now on vCenter availability, it needs you got your vCenter database, and we have our authentication. So what we need to do for our database is we can set up a cluster for the database where we're using Oracle or SQL Server, or we can do some HA with the database, the vPostgres on the vCenter server appliance. And also for our authentication, of course, we may want to do multiple platform service controllers for redundancy, and we need several Active Directory domain controllers so we can have some redundancy. And of course, set that up with multiple redundant servers. Now, HA, it's some uses HA high availability. I like to think of it as that doesn't say your system's not going to go down with HA. There will be some loss. What will happen if you lose a virtual machine that's protected by HA? If that host died, then the machines on there will reboot on another host. So there is that downtime, but you have a minimal downtime of just a reboot. So what HA does is it protects against the ESXi host failures, data store accessibility failures, it protects against application failures, and protects virtual machines against network isolation. So let's talk about what happens in a host failure. Like I said earlier, HA restarts the machine that failed on the hardware, restarts its VMs on other hosts. Let's say maybe our problem's not hardware, maybe it's something in Windows on the guest operating system running on hardware. Well, we can have that happen to where the vSphere HA will monitor the machine. Now to do this, you're going to need to have VMware tools installed on that guest operating system. So you can have it to where if something's wrong with the VMware tools and something's not responding right with Windows, it can restart the virtual machine. And we can also do it with applications. We can say, hey, if this application isn't running correctly, then restart the machine. And again, you're going to need VMware Tools installed. So what that does, VMware Tools talks to the host and talks to vCenter, and you can have it monitor by the application and operating system. And that way it can talk back and say, hey, you know, this virtual machine is not acting right, or the application on this virtual machine is frozen. And then you can have it restarted. And something to go back on that, for this, it'll restart the virtual machine on the same host. It's not going to move it to another one, it's just going to basically issue a guest reboot. Now, we also want redundant network heartbeats. These are sent between the master and slave host. They use that to determine if the slave or the host is gone or not responding. Having redundant heartbeats ensure it to be a reliable detection of there's something wrong, and you minimize the chance of host isolation. So let's say we have one network heartbeat, and for some reason we have two ESXi hosts, and let's say for some reason, I'll draw it out on the board here, we have a host here and a host here, and let's say they have their little network right here. Let's say that we're using this for heartbeats. This is our heartbeat network, and then of course we have our connections to the network. Well, let's just say something happens here and this heartbeat's not there and they can't check each other. What you're going to have is a split brain going on. He thinks he's down, that he thinks that this guy's down, and this guy thinks that this guy's down. So they kind of isolate themselves, but they're still communicating on the network. And that's what having multiple network heartbeats will avoid. And you can do your heartbeat network. It's a VM kernel port that you mark for management. You can also use it if you're using a vSAN. You mark it for virtual SAN traffic when you're using vSAN. You can also use NIC teaming. So that way, if somebody trips over a cord in the data center, you still got it. And you can do that in your vSwitch. You can uplink multiple physical adapters to a vSwitch. And we can also do multiple networks. As you can see here, we have two NICs on two different vSwitches with two different physical adapters. So that would give us two heartbeat networks on two different networks. Now you should be able to describe the options you can do to configure HA in a vSphere environment, and you can discuss the response to HA when an ESXi host, VM, or application fails.